What's up, everybody? This is Karak with ACG, and, well, you probably already know that. Today, I'm going to do a video with Matt from Mrmattyplays. We're going to cover what we thought of Forza Horizon 3 and just break it down and discuss it. Now, this is going to be an interesting discussion because you have somebody like myself who's played all of the prior games and really enjoys racing games, and you have something like Matty where he actually hasn't played that many and really went into it as somebody who was new. And some of the things that I noticed and had issues with, he actually noticed because I was looking for things that might, maybe cause issues for novices. But at the same time, he actually noticed some stuff I didn't. It was a very cool, really enjoyable discussion. So without further ado, here you go. So let's just talk about what we thought of Forza as a whole. You rated it a, what is your term?
I said buy that game. Great game.
Yeah. And obviously so did I. And it looks like pretty much everybody else did except for... some like IBS website or something like IBS Times, Irritable Bowel Syndrome Times or something like that. And they rated it. But I honestly, as somebody, I know you said you haven't played a lot of racing games, stuff like that. That's the thing to me, that's the best part because you haven't and I have. And there's something about Forza Horizon that just absolutely, in this title at least, spoke to, it seems like, almost everybody. It was just, do you remember the time when you were like, okay, I'm pretty much digging this game? Like, was there a specific moment when you were like,
I think because at first I was intimidated because I remember starting up a racing and they had a tuning section. I clicked on it and I was just like, oh God, like I am so in over my head right now. And then it's I don't want to say dumped it down at all because it didn't, because there's the advanced options where people know what they're doing. But for me, it was, I think once I started getting into that rhythm of racing and how everything naturally happened, I think it was around the time when I unlocked the convoy system where you honk your horn, someone races with you and you race to your waypoint. I was like, okay, I really like how this game is structured, where it's constantly rewarding you every step of the way. Where someone like me, I can end up being pretty good at racing games, so I put the time in. But for someone who hasn't played in a while, I was pretty rusty, and I was still feeling like I was making progress and being rewarded, even though I wasn't like coming in first place every time. So that's kind of when it hit me. Is when I ended up. I think I was used to coming in first place because of the beginning races, and I came in like fourth and fifth, and I didn't see much of a slap in the hand for doing doing poorly. So I was like, okay, I really like this. And damn fucking bug in my room. But that was when I had that moment where I was like, okay, I really like this because, it's rewarding someone like me who can now get into racing games with this type of game.
That's weird because actually I remember I was sitting here and it's also the tuning section, funny enough. I was playing a typical car that I always get. I always get a BMW, the three or four now. But I had the 3 and I was driving it and I was like, it's, each one needs a little touch up. And I went in and I adjusted it and I did a couple things that I knew would work. And then I tried a couple things that I was sort of questioning how they would react in Forza, because Forza Horizon versus Forza 6 is pretty dramatically different. I joked in my review about it being like art with $1,000 tires in Forza 6 because everybody's trying to be perfect. You're not rubbing. Rubbing is not supposed to be racing. It's supposed to be very detail oriented to where you're going and cutting lines. And then in Forza Horizon, you're just like, you could be on wet tarmac 1 second and then in the mud 1 second. You could drive across a stream the next second. Yeah. And it dialed in perfectly. And I remember just going like, oh, wow, this feels right. And I did the gamepad for quite a while, tested the different difficulties, which I found some. Did you see my video? Have you got a chance to watch it?
Yeah, I watched it.
Did you see the novice level characters like literally quitting in the race in my video? Because I don't
think so, because I watched it and then right before this, I was watching it, and then I tabbed off and was listening, but I wasn't watching.
So there's a section, well, every section, if you're playing on novice, the game will just up and let you win. And I have video of it, where you're driving and the guy just hits his brakes, and you fly right by. And I was like, that's odd. Then I did it again. Then I did it again. We did it about 37 times, where we would literally like park and wait. And the best video I have of it is in my review, where the guy's driving and he literally just goes and he just like takes off the wrong way and then just sort of scoots and then parks and does this for a little while. And unfortunately for people like yourself, like people who are trying to get better as a novice, if you don't have guys who are pushing you, It's harder to move up to medium.
I played
or
on
higher
medium
level.
though.
Okay.
Yeah, I played on medium.
So one of the things I dissed on my review is I feel that they hurt anybody who's brand new to racing games at all, because that's something that should never be in games. First of all, it's unrealistic.
A little too forgiving.
Yeah, and you should never have that. You're trying to have this cool festival feel. People don't just park their cars in the middle of the fucking road. So there was some stuff I didn't like. But yeah, the moment for me was dialing in a car and then just. I wasn't a big fan of the convoys as much as the face-to-face where you could just drive and get behind somebody and challenge them. That shit just worked for me for some reason. And I've played past games. It was a little glitchy. Did you notice where if you got behind somebody to challenge them, sometimes the challenge button wouldn't come up for a second?
Yeah, I had that a couple of times where they're like, to progress, then get someone part of like your Drivatar squad or whatever. They're like, challenge this person. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to, but I can't.
Yeah, I think that might be touching the server. Is what I'm thinking, is that it's checking to see if this person that you're behind is updated, maybe?
Yeah, so. That reminds me, is that I actually laughed. I meant to tell you this, but I'm driving around. I already knew what your gamer tag was because I think it's a universal one. It's Melanthrax, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm driving around, and all of a sudden I just see you cruise by me.
Oh, really?
I was just like, I was just like, oh my God. Like,
isn't that sort of cool?
Yeah, I was like, I just fucking passed him.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, that's actually one of the things I do like is its mixture of of how all the Drivatars work and stuff like that. I thought it did a really good job. It's just weird because you, as somebody who doesn't play that much, and me as somebody who does, it's weird to have us both agree on a lot of stuff because most of the time that won't happen. But I think that,
especially on a racing game, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I think Forza just handled it perfect this time. I mean, better than Horizon 2 and better than Horizon 1. And I know for a lot of people, Horizon 1 was considered their favorite 360 game, and Horizon 2 their favorite Xbox One game, right? Yeah, that's an Xbox One game. So graphically, though, man, so HDR, dude, it's funny because I spent I would say I probably wasted 7 hours on my video because I thought my video footage was wrong, but it wasn't. It was my eyes were so accustomed to HDR that I got my normal. Yeah, and I wasted 7 hours sitting there editing my footage going, what is wrong with this recording? Like, is it seeing HDR somewhere else and it tried to record it with the wrong and then all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to sleep on this and try to figure it out tomorrow. And I woke up, and by then your eyes have adjusted back to normal brightness scales. I got on my monitor first, and I fucking loaded up that footage, and I was like, oh, Jesus, that's the difference.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
It's funny because the game looks amazing. I played it for about 11 hours without HDR, to see how it looked, because I thought that would be fair. You don't want to just say, everybody's going to have an HDR TV. It looks fantastic. The lighting engine, I don't know if you noticed, but they even somehow got they got real-time reflections on the hoods. And those
I did pick up on that.
Yeah, those are some things that usually people skimp out on. And I don't know, it just seems like
I notice the little things such as like just the little rain droplets on your car when it's raining. And let's say after a race, they'll show like little pan and zooms of bits of your car, and you'll just see like little droplets running down. I love that. Yeah. That's some crazy attention to detail to me.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. Graphically, was there anything that, aside from that, was there any time where you were like, oh man, like this is awesome?
It sounds pretty stereotypical, but it's like that moment in the opening of the game where you're just driving around the East Coast, I'd say, and you have like a sunset on the right side, and you're just like, holy crap, this is beautiful. It's just an open vista. You're on a long straight road. Just got that perfect view. So yeah, for me, it was like that. I don't know if you noticed something though, is that sometimes like I don't know if it was just my eyes, but there were times that like maybe I was going too fast. But for example, I have it in my review. I didn't mention it though, because I think it is just me, is that I'm like driving up just like a little slope, but you could see it. And then all of a sudden, like this clear brick wall kind of appeared. And I hit like right into it. I don't know if you've had the same issue in this game where I find myself sometimes just crashing headfirst into something because I didn't see it right away. I don't know if it's the actual movement of the game or if it's my eyes. Because the game doesn't have bad pop in, but there's some times where like the elements and the colors blend in so much that I'll just go headfirst into a brick wall and then I'll steer myself straight.
Okay, that could happen. I will say one thing. If you ever notice that again, try turning up your color saturation, your color,
Okay.
so that it separates those colors a little bit more when you're playing
Yeah.
it. The nice thing is your recorder won't pick that up. But yeah, I do play it depends on the game. On that one, I actually like it a little desaturated. I actually see what you mean. Yes, that I didn't have it happen that much, but
Yeah, it only happened twice, but it was
could
like
certainly
one of
happen in
those.
that game. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was just the way the colors blended. I was just like, holy crap! Like I didn't even see that brick wall there.
Yeah, for me, like graphically, the best thing was up in the forest. There's that one race that winds through the trees, and it goes for like 7 miles, and then it comes out alongside the river, and then goes up and down towards a delta. And what is weird about that is it goes from like not raining to, well, you can choose how you want. That's one of the things I like, blueprints, which we'll talk in a second, but you can choose how you want to race, and I chose that it be rainy and then fade off. And I was just consistently amazed at like the color spectrum and the way things looked as I was driving, and the fact that it held 30 frames per second the entire time. Like there was not a single frame rate
no
drop.
technical stutters. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was fantastic. What did you think? Did you also notice when you were driving, at least I did, because of the way they did color, it's the first time, Cadiz mentioned this, we both noticed that like different headlights, if you had 5 cars behind you, their headlights, you could actually tell the slight color variations.
Yeah.
The coloring lighting engine they used in this is obviously beyond what Horizon 2 was. Yeah, it's just
I picked up on that when I started driving in first person, and I was actually, instead of like holding up on the thumbstick to just look behind you, I'd actually like glance up in the rear view mirror, and I'd see like different color headlights. I'm like, oh, that's, once again, that's just some real crazy attention to detail. For me though, I really liked the cross country kind of racetracks, where I remember the first time it happened for me was, I think I just unlocked like a type of truck or something like that. Mine was like a Lamborghini Urus, I think it's pronounced, or something like that. And I remember I was like, okay, it's gonna be a standard race because we were on asphalt. All of a sudden we go off road, and then we're like in these open flower fields and stuff, and we're cutting through trees, and all of a sudden we're kind of in the jungle now, and we're looping around. Now we're in the beach. Like it was a different type of geographic area, and it was just an awesome place to race in, where I think they handled the world design really well, where it felt like races were always varied, always felt different, because they change up like that and make things exciting, where you're going off little jumps and stuff, where it felt arguably for, a game that's, I think, got its name from its simulations, it's actually a little arcadey, which I enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, Forza, the nice thing about Forza Horizons is they've always been a tiny bit arcadey compared to the Prime. But actually, I talk about that in my review. That is actually what I like the best about the game, is the landscapes. Especially for me, there's a race that goes past the 12 Apostles, the pillars, and then then takes a sharp right turn up the beach face, and the beach is on your left, and you're basically elevating back up onto the road. And I had like 4 people all trying to get beside me on there, and there's only at most 1.5, maybe 2 car widths. And it just felt amazing. Like I was sitting there and I talked about this in the review, how it was just like wind in your hair kind of moment, where you're like, you shoot off the edge. And in the replay, you look at it and you're like, holy shit, that was epic. I will say one thing, first of all, I want to make sure people don't mistake what Maddie and I were saying, which is that we didn't realize that there were colored lights or colored headlights for all cars, even in the prior games. What we're saying is that there's a color palette change that occurs here, and there's a separation, regardless if you have HDR, that allows you to see far more variation, and I really like their use there. One of the things I did have an issue with, and I wanted to know if you noticed this, or if it's just me, but daytime and nighttime became, I had to screw with, and this is my normal TV, I had to screw with the settings quite a number of times, because daytime would look weird, and then nighttime would look right, and then nighttime would look weird, and daytime would look right. And I'm like, is this my TV? And then I switched to a couple other TVs, and I think if you look in the options, you have the ability to do HDR brightness and normal brightness. I think, and I could be wrong, that the HDR brightness affects non-HDR TVs regardless in some way.
Okay.
And probably
do you mean like the dark was too dark?
Contrasted out, yeah. And so if I got daytime, maybe like things would be too dark, almost like it was too contrasty, and then I go at nighttime and it'd look pitch black, like it should. Like you got your headlights, it's a dark night.
Yeah.
That's great.
See, I was gonna say, oddly enough, because of my roots from Bethesda, I've always felt they've done nighttime wrong, where it just feels like a desaturated version of the actual map. And so for me, I actually appreciated the night and day cycle in Forza because when it's nighttime, it actually feels nighttime. It's actually dark. The only thing I can really see is through my headlights. So for me, I actually kind of enjoyed that aspect. I never had to really tinker with my settings. I didn't have any visual things that really irritated my eyes. I can say that sometimes it was a little too artsy for the daytime, where it was like, oh, it's always beautiful here and stuff. There wasn't just this kind of area that to make it a little more of a believable world. I guess there wasn't these moments where it was like, okay, this is kind of a normal area. It was always like, oh, it's super dark here, or it's raining, look at these weather effects, or look how shiny and the sunset is, and something along those lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can agree with the daytime, but the nighttime I appreciate it, but that's probably just because of how much time I put into Bethesda games where I feel like their nighttime is just awful. Where I liked how Forza did it.
Yeah, no, I definitely do as well. I actually, in my Walking the Walk for Fallout 4, I talked about how they handle nighttime in Fallout 4. It's definitely got some issues. For me, it was that nighttime did look good, but then daytime...
Oh, okay.
Daytime looked off, and depending on your TV and how bright it can get, I assume I could have cranked up my brightness during the daytime, but what happened was nighttime was good and good and black, and then daytime was a little too black in some areas, a little too dark in some areas, where you get that darkness, and you're like, "Is this crushed?" And so,
yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, then I have that.
Yeah,
a little bit.
It was odd. The thing is, though, is that a couple of little things we noticed aside, that's probably one of the best racer presentations that I think I've ever seen in a game. I would have loved more damage, because it certainly,
I agree.
It certainly was hilarious to do 22 flips, and then your car is just like, unobtainium. It's like perfect, and there, something slightly,
or like the head-on crash, and your hood's just a little crinkled up, like it's really you're fine. It's like, no, my car would be literally like a crushed can.
And I had mine cranked to simulation, and it still was having some issues there, but that's on purpose to keep the flow, I think. Talking about the gameplay, what was your favorite type of event style? Mine was blueprints. Like the blueprints, they literally fascinated me the moment I saw them.
Yeah, I enjoyed the blueprints a lot. I mean, when you really think about it, there weren't too many, I guess the word is modes for it. There was just your races, your PR events, and then you had the blueprint section, championship, rivals. For me, I really like the PR events. I know that they were kind of like sponsorships in a way or something like that. But I like the idea of them getting this car here and doing something cool with this car. I thought that was a cool way to get you familiar with different types of cars, which is, like I said, once again, this is from the perspective of someone who doesn't know too much about cars, doesn't know too much about racing games. It was like, okay, I want to get to know more about this car. And they have like a special event for that in that make. And so I kind of like that, and feeling out how it handled. It was also a chance to try out new cars so that I knew, okay, I didn't like that car, I'm not going to buy one like that. And so for me, it was kind of a fun learning experience trying the PR stunts.
What about the bucket lists then? I'm assuming you were a fan of those too?
Yeah, those are good. Like the drifting challenges and stuff. Because it also, once again, like I said, these are things I appreciated, because the drifting challenges was like, at first when I started, I'm trying to like brake an accelerator on the corner, like a Need for Speed game, and I'm just like right into the wall. I'm like, oh boy, I'm really bad. And so these types of challenges were actually improving my skill with the game. So that's why I really appreciated them, and I always look forward to them. And that was the first thing I went to each time you updated your festival. You just go straight to a PR event for me.
Wow. And so I barely did any. So yeah.
Really?
I do you know why? Because when I started, I jumped in, and the first one was that drifting event up in the top right corner of the map. And I later got somewhat good at drifting, but I have never been great at Forza drifting. For some reason, I literally could not describe to you that their games.
It's a little off. It does feel a little off,
or just different. Some people are great at it. I've seen videos of people doing.
Oh yeah,
it's like redonkulous. And I have a steering wheel, and I'm considered a fairly competent driver. And I'm sitting there going like, oh shit. I mean, I can't even get this right. And then for the steering wheel, they had messed up the settings, and so, for example, e-brake was like up on the digital pad or something on your, and so I had to switch it to the clutch, because at the time I was just doing gear shift but without clutch before I switched to clutch and gear shift. What I found interesting, those are great. The bucket lists were okay to me. Some were just sort of cheesy, where I was like, smash this, working area up as much as you can with this Fiero.
Yeah,
Or
that
whatever the
little.
fuck that car
Yeah, I was
is,
gonna say that little construction site area.
Yeah.
I kind of like that though because at the time it was raining. Rain's my favorite weather, so I was
Me
like
too.
really into that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, that's cool. For me, though, the favorite blueprints blew my mind. First of all, it's not a ton of different options, but the fact that they don't restrict you from experimenting. So I can play yours, and I get the same EXP as if I played mine or the developers. And so I named a bunch of mine because I was like, I can't wait till people play. So I named all mine like Karak's crossplay, Karak's, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I
okay.
don't, just because I was like, oh, you can put your stamp on things. That's awesome to me. And the blueprint allowed me to like do a race where, for example, maybe there's some place where I felt my car wasn't set up like the way I wanted. Now I can go and tune up my car, right? I can go and switch that all out. Or I could make a blueprint and go, I'm going to do a dry race, or I'm going to do a wet race, or I'm going to do a morning race, or I'm going to do less fog because there's a bunch of fog, So I thought that was really cool. Put some of the power in our hands.
Yeah. Absolutely. It also, once again, from my perspective, it let me get a hang of the feel of the roads during different weather types where you'll drift a little bit more during the rain. So it was like, okay, like I want to see how that feels in this car and test things out there. So yeah, it was a lot of experimentation when, like you said, it gave you a lot of freedom.
What about special car? Was there a car that you got that you were like, I love this car?
That's the thing is that for me, I got my review code late. So I had about
how late? Do you remember?
2 days to review it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so for me, it was like I got to the barn car thing, and what's it called? When it opened up in the area, I was like, okay, I'll search for this thing. I'm searching everywhere. Could not find it. I was like, okay, like this is distracting me from a good type of distraction. Wasn't like a negative of the game, but I was like, okay, it's like a secret car. I remember reading on the embargo, they were like, don't reveal it. So I was like, okay, I guess it's just for my personal enjoyment. So I'll go back afterwards and look for that at some point when I have the chance to play it. So I actually didn't have a chance to get into that much because I was focused on pushing through I put this in quotes, story and just opening up more festivals and experiencing the rest of the world in the game and getting a real feel for all that. So like I said, I didn't have a chance to try out the barn cars. I don't know if you did, right?
I tried out a couple of them. I wasn't really, of course they were trying to get some Australian cars in there because, and there was one particular car that I've never tried before. I couldn't even tell you the name, that I was really happy with. And then our go-to car, which this has never happened to me. Usually I go for luxury sedans with high horsepower, as high as I can possibly get. And we're talking like the bigger Lexuses, I have a Hyundai Genesis myself. So like, I like those European style cars.
Yeah.
This car was like a 1942 Ford. I can't remember the name. It is a monster. It's like out of the movie Cobra with Sylvester Stallone. I mean, it looks like a cartoon car. We cranked that thing up. It weighs 3,587 pounds. So what I usually do to get a good car when I first test it is match horsepower to weight minus by 10. So I get 350 some horsepower. And then that'll sort of help you identify with the car. And then from there, you can pump up your horsepower. And instead of cranking it all up and jumping in going, I hate this car, I've found that a 1-to-10 ratio works really well.
Yeah.
And I got this car, and I'm telling you, most of my footage is that. This thing was like glue on the fucking road, dude. And it just happened to fit perfect with the steering wheel. And Cadiz and I were racing, and Cadiz he's a racer, right? He wants the he wants the car that sounds like a 2-stroke out in the back, somebody weed eating their backyard. And I'm like, hey, try this car out, dude. I think I nailed it. And he was like, I have never in my life wanted a old style car. I want this car. Like this is so it's the one you see in my review with the long blue nose. And
okay, yeah. I know that one.
It fucking, even in the engine sound when I did the sounds during the review, it literally just excited me. Like it just and I was like, oh,
they had the sound design pretty well for that, I thought.
Yeah, so that was my favorite car. Speaking of sound design, I was also amazed that every single item, smallest to largest, actually adjusted the audio, which has happened in Forzas before, but sometimes it doesn't seem to make as big of a difference, but it adjusts the engine sound. So like,
oh yeah, that's
small aspiration would change it just a little bit, it was awesome.
Yeah, it's just, like that's what this game is. If ladies and gentlemen, if you couldn't tell, is that there's some crazy attention to detail on certain things, but it's not like the Order 1886 type attention to detail where it's taking away from the game. It's that good attention to detail that adds to what the type of game it is, which is a racing game. So like hearing your engine just sound a little bit different after fine tuning it in certain areas was it's insane. It was like, wow, because not only do you feel it while you're driving, but you also hear it. So
Yeah.
it's this good feedback as a player.
Yeah, I think it's a cool gameplay loop to go, oh, okay, so this small change, I can hear that right here at this RPM. And then this other change, oh, I can hear this and this other change. And changing engines, I love the conversion buttons. Those became my favorite things. You could convert a rear-wheel drive or a front-wheel drive to all-wheel drive, which was one of my favorite things. And you can also just throw in new engines and say, fuck it, like we're going to replace the entire engine. And it allowed, there's so much customization in there that I really felt like it was pretty deep. For somebody like me who loves it, there's a lot of advanced stuff. For somebody like you who maybe is just getting into it, there was enough information there for you to be able to go, okay, yeah, I get it. The one thing I have an issue with, and I've had an issue with every Forza game, is that their default numbering system doesn't make a lot of sense. It'll be like handling 4.6, and I'll be all, okay, I get that, but show me the horsepower number. You have to hit up on the digital pad to filter to the horsepower. And I know a lot of people go by those numbers and like them, but I don't. I don't like seeing the bars like a fighting character, because to me, I'm doing minutia, and so you'll see like, and for example, how useless is it when when the upgrade turns your number green but doesn't change the number?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like these incremental changes, and I think what I've noticed is for those incrementals add up. So you'll literally change like 4 different parts in your car, and then they'll all be incremental, and then one of them will go up 0.1.
Yeah.
So it'll go from 4.5 to 4.6. It's like, okay, like thank you.
Yeah.
It's just a little change, but I guess it makes it feel like you're doing it. You're making a difference. For me, I found the bars useful naturally, just because, like I said, I think I don't like to use the word casual, but it's a more simplified version.
Of course, yeah.
Once again, I think they knew they had something with this game. And so I feel like they tried to make it accessible for people like myself, but also deep enough for people like you.
Yeah,
who
you can dive in if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, okay, let's look at the outside first, then we'll dive in later. So it's, for people like me, it could get into an even more immersive and deeper experience, because you're learning the outside, the bare bones of things, and then it's like, all right, let's see what's really underneath the hood here, pardon the pun. And that was a good one. And so I really can appreciate that.
What about music? Were you a fan?
Yeah. I mean, like, I thought the classical station was kind of ridiculous. I was like, why is this even here? Groove music didn't work for me at all. That was really weird. Like your review said, the music would just play over it sometimes, like different stations, or just, like I said, wouldn't work. And when it did work, it played like terrible music. I was like, okay, I'm not even gonna waste my time with this. So I just listened to the hip hop station. I think that was Groove, or I don't remember, but they had cheesy names for the stations, but it was either that or the electronic type of music, the like hip hop dance sort of stuff. So I was like, okay, I like this a lot though, because for me, like I said in my review, it's the separation between just listening to the droning of your engine like you're in a long, boring road trip with your family, and actually like, getting into the race a little bit, kind of feels like the music's almost moving with your car in a sense, where it's like, it'll libido drop and like your car will land, something like that. So for me, music in these types of games is a big deal, and I did enjoy it. I thought it was pretty good.
I think it's super important. The thing that I didn't mind the tracks at all. What I had an issue with was the entire presentation. So like when it said like a base station, and it would tell you like 3 examples, and that was it. And so when somebody's new to these games, my belief is that there should be samples. You can play samples of 10 of those songs.
Yeah.
And here's why. You don't get to go back. You get that, and you might spend 2 to 4 hours without any new music except for the fucking classical station, which for reasons unknown plays like just the classics. Like there isn't anybody unknown on like the classical. It's like
and I've heard enough of that. Yeah, I've heard enough of that classical music with Fallout 4, because on the Freedom Radio or whatever, they played that exact music. So I'm like, nope. Thank God I unlocked this last, because I did not want that.
Now Groove, I like the idea. I went.
Oh, same. Yeah.
I went in there, and what I did was I figured out a way. It didn't work in the game almost ever, but what I did was I went into I snapped it and got it to work, and did a search for what I wanted, which was like mosh, which is electro kind of stuff. And so I got that running, and then jumped back into the game, and that worked. But it only worked as long as he had stuff playing. And then the moment I was out, then it did the weird thing where I had Beastie Boys and Bach playing over the top of each other, and I was like, what the fuck is is going on? But I think that what was there is fine. I just think their presentation in that aspect was actually too casual. They were just like, there's some stuff in the bass channel, and you're like, well, that'd be nice to know. Can I have samples? Because I mean, you're hiring these people, and I don't know.
It reminded me of Death Row in a sense, that where you'd get sponsorships,
right?
And all these companies would just really give you money. It was that type of simplistic type of sponsorship and hiring type of method. So I was quite reminiscent of that. Where in a way I was like, I kind of like this, but yeah, it was definitely, they should have given a preview button or something like that.
Yeah, just to let people sort of go, oh, okay, I get it.
If I remember correctly, I think if you hovered over it, you'd hear a little bit of the music, but I think it would have been better if they had like press a button. It would have a selection of 10 songs, and you go through them. Okay, I like that music there, and then you can unlock that station.
Yeah, I think that as a whole, what they tried to do, I think they tried to do a ton of things, and most of them hit perfectly, and then a couple didn't. Like the entire story about you being the festival owner was funny to me because it's like nothing changed from Forza 2. So they're all, except that you're the Walmart manager. That's what I said in my review. You do everything everybody else does, but they call you a different name and give you a 5-cent raise. And so instead of going on races to enter events, you go on races to open events. Like instead of doing this, you do, and you're still looking for barns. And then I love how they're all, listen, we think that there might be some illegal races going on. And I'm like, motherfucker, the first race I had was completely absurd. I hit 210 miles an hour. That's not fucking legal anywhere. They were
like, please be careful. I'm like,
yeah.
Come on. I've done worse. I've driven off road in a sports car and wiped out a bunch of trees. Yeah, that's illegal.
I just took this Veyron 300 miles an hour into the side of a tree, and I'm fine. But no, there. And so you were joking about story in your review. That's my joke about the story, that I love that they tried to progress it, but at the same time they didn't progress it, except for basically allowing you to choose the music during at the actual events. That is quite literally pretty much it, except for hiring drivatars, which I have to say, this is where I think they hit a genius stroke. Hiring drivatars and blueprints were fantastic. Drivatars, hiring and firing and racing them, that was awesome. So, I mean, I have a bunch of my friends on there, and I enjoyed that. What level did you get to? Do you remember?
I mean, I played online. I saw someone was 150. You could see in my review, some guy was he had to be a developer or something. Yeah. Crazy high level. But for me, I got to about 20-ish. I was around there. So, yeah, it was enough where I had completed the game and stuff. But,
the thing about that game is the level doesn't matter too much because of the money. You can buy the cars. So,
exactly.
You could experience all the cars and stuff at a fairly low level. The reason why I asked is because I was going to say the same thing. I saw somebody was 127. And I think when I stopped the review, I was in the 70s at that time. And I was like, holy shit, 127. Yeah. Like, what the fuck? This guy, and I was playing constantly,
Yeah.
And with, I guess, when you turn some of the difficulty settings on, when you make it easier, you get less points. So I'm assuming some of those guys probably have everything, they're using clutch.
For me, I had the brake arrow on. I turned off the acceleration one because I don't need that, but I definitely had the brake arrow on because I wanted to know, okay, this is for these types of roads, this is how I should play it. I had rewind on, which was a godsend because there were sometimes I would just have an awful moment and be like, okay, rewind. So yeah, for me, I definitely took a big XP cut. Also, a lot of times I'd forget to do the convoy system, which I think added so much XP. But yeah, for me, the leveling up process, ladies and gentlemen, it's really well done where you're constantly leveling up. And when you level up, you unlock
those perks.
Perks on top of I kind of like the leveling system, but it's also really weirdly randomized where you just either win money or a new vehicle unlock. They'll say on the left, you have a chance to win this Ferrari or something like that. And you might get it. And if you do, it's a big deal. But yeah, the leveling system, I enjoyed a little bit. But like you said, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of just a number next to your name because you could have the best car in the game at my level, like level 20.
Yeah, you absolutely could. And I don't know about you, but I won approximately 0 cars in the spins. I had over 150 spins, and we literally were on the floor laughing. At about roll 87, that's when I started counting. I should make sure people understand. We had many rolls prior to that before I started counting. And then we were doing events trying to get as many rolls as possible, just anything we could. Every point I spent, I went to the perk that was like, you get an extra roll. And I'm like, okay, I want that. Wheel of Fortune. 0 fucking cars. And by the time we were at the 80s, we were literally just laughing, just waiting to get back there. And it would land on the car and then go, and it'd go up to the money, and I'd be all...
like just at the top of the card, you'd be like, okay, I got the car. It's like, no,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. I don't know what was going on. I know other people won, so I didn't worry about it in my review. I also sometimes you only see like 3 cars on a spin. There's probably 10 tiles, and the rest are money, so your chances aren't the best anyway. Um,
When that's the case, and you land on like the 20,000 credit one, and you're just like, really, like I got hardly any money for it either.
dude, I got
And then I think it's a
3,000.
big deal. Yeah, exactly. And they act like it's a big deal because they'll like go like, you want 20,000, they'll flip it VIP 40,000. I'm just like, am I VIP every single time then?
Yeah,
Because they just double your money. It's like, why not just put it at 40,000 instead?
yeah, yeah. That was weird,
It's 20.
actually.
Yeah, I was kind of like, okay,
And then
sure.
I think my favorite race type, playing all of them, or car type, I like the trucks, and I liked everything I played. But I have to say, the rally stuff in the dune buggies, it was just it There's a couple races up in the, what do they call it, the Badlands. What did they call it? You can choose the event. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, the Australian Badlands,
Yeah.
I think they called it.
And
Or it's Outback,
is
maybe.
it the actually named the Outback? For some reason, I didn't think it was actually.
I think that's the name of the
On
festival.
the nose. Okay. It was. You get in these vehicles that are quite literally just nuclear cores of heat and speed, and you pump them up to 700-800 horse, and those were some of the most fun races. There's one racetrack near the airport where you go in between the airplanes and then through the hangar, and and up the hill and then through the ravine and across the water. And it was just like you said, it's like every moment is something new. And I raced that race for hours. It was like, do you want to replay? Yes, I want to replay. Do you want to replay? Yep, I would like to replay. Do you want to replay? Uh-huh. And just keep doing it. That was so fun. Was there a particular, like, anything like that sort of caught your eye?
It was actually the first showcase event where you raced a freight train. I loved that. They did that. They handled it so well. Where it was right at the end. I remember almost having a movie moment where like it's just me and the freight train. I'm just I'm holding my controller, racing. And I'm just gradually leaning forward more and more. I was like, I'm trying to like physically move my car ahead of this freight train. I'd be about like a millisecond, and it was just it was so intense, but also it was really cool because it's going in its set course, and I'm like weaving around it, going off jumps above it and stuff, and trying to beat this freight train. It was such a cool idea. It was really something special. I love that idea. The showcase events were fantastic.
Did it bother you? Because it bothered me a little bit. And it always has in these games. Sometimes you got your car dialed in, and then they'll be like, showcase event, not your car. And that, so it's funny, you liked it. I thought it was okay, but I was very disappointed it was not my car, because I literally parked in that blue car I told you about, and I was so excited. This thing just handles like a dream, and it's got a ton of horsepower, and they're like, blah blah blah, and then I see a Charger or whatever you're driving.
Yeah, like it's like, or buy a new one. It's like, oh damn, I just customized this one, but I can't use it.
Exactly. And I was like, oh no. But that race was handled well. The forest races in the forest, I thought all those races were handled well. The thing about this game is it doesn't look like the map is very big. It really doesn't. And I get that. A lot of people have said that it does, but the way they cut it and the way they put everything, there's even huge highway tracks in the Outback, like long ones, because that's where I was getting to full speed when it was asking about when you were doing like speed races. And I was really surprised just how big it was, even though if you zoom out and look, you're like, it looks like 5 miles.
Yeah, that's the thing. You're driving these crazy fast cars where you could go from one end of the map to the other very easily. Especially when I got my review code in the first day, I literally explored every quadrant of the map, and you'll sit to yourself and think, okay, I'm supposed to not be okay with that, but there's so much in this map, there's so much to do, and it's all worthwhile and fun, that why complain, right? It doesn't matter at that point what the size is, especially when each one is so diverse and handled, like you said, the way they cut it up, it was handled so well, where each race felt unique and well thought out, where, for me, like I said, were those moments where you're just changing geography, you're in all these different types of locales, racing through them, and it's just, like you said, they handled it well.
Yeah, what do you think about online? You did some online, so did I. Were you pretty happy with the systems? I thought that you know what? I feel bad. We could have just done online. Like you and
Yeah,
I didn't even, I honestly didn't think about it. But when it comes to like co-op online, it progresses with your single player story, which I thought was awesome. You have adventure modes where you can choose racing or the full-on adventure. Did you ever try any of those modes and run around with anybody?
I tried online adventure. I tried a little bit of online free roam. And then, for me, I just switched back right away. I want to make sure, for me, I want to make sure it functioned. Was there not any bad lag? Was there any like crazy latency? I could drive perfectly fine. I really like the online adventure mode though. And that's kind of like this circuit mode for those who don't know, where I'll run like 4 different events where, it'll be a race or whatever. And then you'll have a winner based off your XP. And like I said in my review, it reminded me kind of that like a baseball team that you played on growing up as a kid that, you may have been bad, but you got a medal and a trophy for showing up. And so, it's based off XP, not who comes in first in every race, which I really like, because online you'll meet some, especially when I'm playing with level 100s, I'm going to meet some ridiculously good racers. But it was awesome for me and enjoyable for me because I was able to come in the top 3 each time because I was driving stylish. Gotcha. I had clean drives. I also knew how to rack up points. So the game was rewarding me based off just being a good driver, which is smart as fuck. They did that. That is such a good choice. I cannot stress enough how good of a choice that is. And I'm not saying that because I'm new to racing games or whatever. I'm saying that because it's just such a good gameplay mechanic to not be like, oh, you want your reward, you got to come in first and be the fastest driver. It's like, no, be a good driver. Learn how to rack up points in this, mostly simulation, but also arcadey take on the Forza franchise. So,
well, I think
love online adventures.
I think they're trying, and a lot of racing games we've seen do this. The kudo system existed in the Gotham Racer for years and years, which is like you could rack up points for not hitting things and stuff. I think a lot of it is exactly what you said. It's like they don't want to say if you get first, you won't always win. But what they are saying is that if somebody's better than you at driving cleanly and they're second, there's a chance they're going to beat you points wise at least. And so it sort of makes people go, oh, I'm the fastest. And somebody says, yeah, you're a shit driver because I'm second and I still beat you in points because I didn't hit a bunch of shit. And so you have that cool thing where, like you said, somebody who is just a cleaner driver can do really well and still, in a way, win the race. And I thought that was awesome. But I also think that they did a really good job of making sure that if you've never played a Horizon game, you could most likely get in and go, okay, I can see what's going on. And there wasn't any of those brick walls that you usually face in a racing game where you're like, holy shit, And I know people have issues with the unlocks being easy in these games. I get that because it's all money-based. But here's the thing, and I keep trying to explain this to people, is like, just if a person is level 1 and you're pissed that they're getting a fucking Bugatti, don't be pissed because they're not going to be good at driving the Bugatti. Like, so to me, I'm totally fine with those because the reward isn't just getting the car. It may be for some people, I don't know.
Learning it.
But the reward is using the car. Yeah. Otherwise, you're a video game Steam collector and you're collecting your cars in your Steam collection. And that shit has
then just
no
letting
place.
Them sit there.
Yeah. That has no place of value for me whatsoever. So, it's just, dude, like to come off Recore, which I'm sorry, I know so many people are mad at me. But this most death threats ever from a review ever.
Really?
Oh, dude.
Really? That's actually really surprising because I didn't talk highly of that game, and most people were like, okay, which is shocking because my audience will challenge me a lot.
They will, yeah. You had told me that before. I was like reading your comments. Sometimes I'm like, what? Why would they challenge you? And then I don't get challenges from my viewers normally. What happens is some of the forums that follow me, like GameFAQs, for example, they have they're always really cool with posting. And a lot of them were very nice. Like one guy's like, listen, this ACG chap, I like his stuff, but whatever he's saying about Recore, I just don't quite understand. Like I'm not having these situations. I'm okay with that. But I was getting people who usually, they're not followers of the channel. And Reddit especially. I was getting personal messages, personal message after personal message where people are like, you should go fucking behead yourself and get fucked by Allah. And I was like, wow, dude, you are crazy racist or not even racist, sorry, but crazy whatever. That's a horrible thing to say about a religion and a horrible thing to say to a person
in general.
But I find them sort of funny because usually I assume they're 12-year-olds. But at the same time, I'm like, I always respond back and I'm like, remember, this is a game review. Wow. I mean, you calm down because you're going to have a fucking ulcer. But coming off of Recore and jumping into this was like, I mean, being covered in shit and taking a bath. I mean, I'm not being. I don't mean to be rude because I know people liked Recore, and there were some parts that I fell down in my like for Recore, so it wasn't horrible. But this was so much better, dude. It was. It was like not even.
I agree.
In the same stratosphere.
I could see why people like Recore, because like every review fucking said, the ideas were great. There's good ideas there.
Absolutely.
It just their end game plan was terrible because the story could have been over in 5 hours. They stretched it to like 20.
Yeah.
And it's just terrible choice in my opinion. But yeah, I totally agree because it's like it's from one end of the spectrum to the other. It's like Recore is generally, I'd say, mediocre. And you go to Forza Horizon 3, it's just like, wow, this is beautiful. You know, it's big, fun, expansive, smart, inviting, all that stuff.
And never in a review have I mentioned the word classic until this one. Like I've never.
I remember seeing that on, I think, your tweet when you promoted it.
Yeah, I never ever say classic because I don't really. I guess I just don't really believe in classics until like later. People, you know, years later, everybody sort of gathers together. Did your ideas change? Were you just excited? But something about Forza 3, dude, like it just dawned on me. I'm like, this is going to be one of those games that their next title, people are going to have such high fucking expectations.
Yeah.
Dude, it's going to be crazy. The only way they could like do it is if they base themselves in Japan or something that people have been wanting for years. Yeah. The hills in Japan coming down into the city.
That's got to be what they do next. It's the only place that makes sense now you mentioned that.
That would be insane.
I'd love that.
Yeah, it's just overall, I mean, it's a fantastic game. And of course it's crossplay if you buy the digital versions. So yeah, are you going to try out the PC version?
Yeah, I'm going to soon because I didn't have a chance to for my review. The fucking file size, man. Oh my god.
60 gigs. 60 fucking gigs.
I was just like, oh my god, like I want to, but like I had to download this thing and get started on my Xbox. I only had 2 days to review it, so I'm like, I can't fathom having enough time to review it on my PC, especially because, you know, there's so many online mechanics that help bring the game to life that disconnecting my Ethernet cord from my Xbox to plug into my PC to speed up the download, it wouldn't have worked out well.
Instead of wireless?
Yeah,
gotcha.
It just wouldn't have worked out well. So for me, I had to skip out on the PC part, but I was just looking around and stuff. From what I've heard, it was well done. So I was like, okay. Yeah,
from what I understand, like barely anybody got a hold of it. And most likely that's not a compatibility. I'm sorry, but an issue where they probably are patching it right up until day one, and they're holding that code. So we'll see. Is there anything else that you can think of for this that you want to cover?
Dare I say, because it's a racing game, I don't think it's gonna be like a crazy big bestseller, at least from what I know. I could be wrong, but for me, I'd say like most underrated game this year because there's so many big games coming out this fall. Now, no one's really, or not many people are checking off Forza Horizon 3 is like, oh, I got to get this game. You know, most people are looking to like next 2 weeks, Gears 4 or Mafia 3, something like that. And this game, man, I think most overlooked game so far because it is so good. It really wasn't on my radar either, and it surprised me in each and every single way.
Do you know what's crazy about that? It's the highest rated racer in 10 years. It's 91 on Metacritic, which I think that's what they said on NeoGAF. It's crazy whatever the score is. Like people are legitimately like, holy shit, like this is, and that's even with the one person rating it a 2 and saying it was terrible. I would say the same thing, that unfortunately I also noticed I watch like the number of viewers on my channel for what videos, right? And I'm always looking, always like, and I'm like, this is low. And
same for me.
Yeah, and I don't know where I am now, but at the time I was the number one review, and I was looking at it going, for a number one review for me, this is about 1/4 to a half as many views as what normally puts me in number one. And I was like, what is going on here? And then, you know, NeoGAF was excited, GameFAQs, but then I started looking at like some of the social indicators, and I'm like, oh shit, you know, even though it's PC and Xbox One of the problems is it's also HDR, which splits. Some of the users won't get it until they get an HDR system. Then it also splits it because Windows 10 only, not Windows 8 or 7. Then it splits it again because it's not PS4. So, you know,
it's not for everyone.
It's
a racer that could be for everyone, but it's on one system. In a split community. And so for me, I saw the same dip in viewers. I was, you know, because Recore, my Recore review did really well, and so I was like, okay, I'm kind of for me, my logic was actually reversed. I was like, Recore won't do as well, and Forza will do pretty well because it's an established franchise. People want to know how it progressed. Complete opposite. Forza's review is like decent. Like this is kind of like I don't want to say whatever, but I expected it sort of, but also I was a little surprised. Whereas Recore, my review did pretty well. I was like, okay. So for me, I mean, it's just about just being there for every game day one. That's what my goal is, to, like you said, give people honest reviews that they can trust in.
Yeah, and hopefully with good games and not multiple copies of Recore. I'm just joking. Anyway, yeah, that's it for me, I think, when it comes to talking about this game. It's definitely fantastic. It's got a couple issues here and there, but I think that if anybody's ever looking, if they liked Burnout Paradise, what are some of the older classics? Need for Speed titles, the Burnout titles, Burnout Paradise in particular. If somebody asked me just like which one I enjoyed the most, I think this has passed Burnout Paradise already. And I think for a lot of people, that's their primer for like a really amazing open world racer. But Cadiz's favorite is Burnout Paradise. And I think when he left, I'm pretty sure when we had that discussion, he said the same thing. I'll have to ask him, but that's pretty crazy. And I think you liked Burnout Paradise, correct?
I did. Yeah. I did. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because I was just a fan of those car crashes, man. The way they just slow-mo and you just see it just like wrinkle up. Loved it. So yeah, this game is, I don't want to jump the gun yet, but like it's one of the best races I played hands down. I don't know if it's the best one ever yet though. I gotta let that digest.
I have a couple games like older style too.
Yeah,
for
me, like I remember growing up on Cruisin' USA. I had that hooked up to my N64 and just foot pedal and everything. Loved it.
Yeah, those are classic, crazy times. Well, that's it for me. I appreciate you stopping by on the channel, and I'm visiting yours as well. So it's always fun to cover a game when we can. We were supposed to cover Recore. I can't remember what happened there, except for both of us just laughing at the fact that everybody disliked that game, which was surprising because I remember when we were putting our reviews up, we were like, I don't know. Well, you were telling me we were like, yeah, dude, I'm not quite sure about this. And I was like, I know. I was a little nervous when I hit that, or when it went public. And I was all, okay, here we go. Same way with Forza. But the great thing with Forza is there was a demo. And I think that people got, at least on the console, people got to see
I'll agree with you, though. The nerves for Recore, I was just like, oh, boy, like these are some long company, like these people have been around for a while, like, forgot, Inofune, Armature, like these people have been around for a while. Like there's going to be people who will kill me if I talk bad about this, but I'm like, I got to be honest. So let's hope that people can admire that. And for me, I was a little more fortunate, I guess, than you, where people weren't trying to behead me.
Yeah. Well, don't join Reddit, I guess. Anyway, that's it for me.
Fuck no.
Peace out, guys.
Later.